In the boundless wilderness of evolutionary history, the passing of certain lives is as beautiful as a canvas gently encapsulated by time. He possessed a row of back plates unique within the entire dinosaur family, distinctively flat, like giant shields, and by all accounts, he should have been a fierce warrior defending his territory on the battlefield. Yet, when modern paleontologists pieced together his complete skeletal topology from the hardened rock layers, they discovered that his life had never been marred by a single cruel scar of bloody plunder. He merely lived deep within a vast, silent ancient plain, transforming into a warm stone sculpture in the dark for all weak lives to nestle against. Tonight, by the faintly flickering hearth, let us step into his true life with this story that requires no effort to remember. Werosaurus Woody. In the cold entries of paleontological guidebooks, he merely represents a stocky, stable-bodied stegosaurid that lived on the rim of the early Cretaceous Western Interior Basin. But in the true night of that era, packed with violent crustal shifts and the razor-sharp fangs and claws of carnivorous dinosaurs, Woody utilized a near-eternal, ultra-slow pace to become an inward enigma. This is not a loud logbook praising bloody conquest, but a midnight resonance of how to shed burdens under the crushing weight of the era, falling into a peaceful sleep inside a cocoon of silver light. Over 100 million years ago, on the rim of the Yungar Basin, the flow of time seemed drawn out to infinity, the air forever filled with a slightly dry, earthy fragrance born of rising geothermal heat. It was the Twilight Era where armored dinosaurs coexisted with massive herbivores, layers of ferns blanketing the red earth, leaving only long trails leading toward distant waterways. Woody stood right at the edge of this coastal plain packed with shifting variables, his robust 7-meter frame weighing several tons appearing remarkably stable beneath the shadows of ancient redwoods. The first turning point of his destiny was driven by a rare tectonic upheaval sweeping across the basin's heartland, splintering the open forest, which had sheltered the clan for decades, into countless menacing crevices overnight. The extreme scarcity of food plunged the once peaceful herbivorous herds into a tightly wound state of territorial contest overnight, their order collapsing entirely under panic and hunger. Spiked stegosaurid relatives fought frantically in the center of the territory to seize the last remaining low shrubs unpolluted by ash, slamming their armored bodies against one another in desperation. The dull crunch of fracturing bones mixed with the blunt ache of tearing flesh echoed through the wilderness day after day, turning the entire forest into a cage of anxiety. Woody watched all of this in silence. He saw his once comrades shatter their beautiful osteoderms into useless remnants in mutual slaughter, their blood staining the muddy tidal flats. As an inward Werosaurus who resisted conflict, he could have easily utilized his multi-ton solid frame to join that brutal struggle for survival power. Yet he did not face the leader's roar filled with jealousy and intimidation, nor did he attempt to build an empire of vanity. Instead, on an evening when the heat receded, he turned his massive body with agonizing slowness. Stepping upon the cracked red soil, he moved like a gray statue drifting slowly through time. Without a single look back, he walked away from that frantic territory, step by step, toward the desolate and quiet unknown canyon. Leaving the shelter of the clan meant Woody had to face the apex predators of the dark night operating on laws of lightning-fast slaughter alone, such as the Kelomaiosauroids adept at ambushing deep within the woods. On this open wasteland devoid of dense forests, any sharp turn born of panic would cause Woody's multi-ton skeleton to collapse instantly under its own crushing weight. This was a restraint disciplined by absolute mass, yet Woody stubbornly carried his slow pace into his very marrow, living as a profound enigma that left predators with nowhere to strike. He walked so slowly, due to the heavy weight of his flat bone plates and his short limbs, his stocky forelimbs paused in the air for several seconds with each step, his wide feet pressed into the dry gravel, releasing a dull, drawn-out, and deeply therapeutic rustling sound that beat with perfect rhythm in the empty night. His posture did not resemble a retreat, but rather an act of using his body to stroke and feel every pulse of the earth. This slowness, ironically, created a beautiful resonance between him and the environment. The long trek accumulated deep, blunt pain in his limb joints, and the high parallel rows of flat back plates, burdened by supporting thick keratinous sheaths for so long, constantly radiated a heavy ache of fatigue. Yet he never stopped, for he knew that on this cruel wasteland, survival wisdom was never determined by physical might, but by who could be the first to find an absolute haven to anchor the soul within a crisis-ridden night. Finally, as night fell completely, he discovered an exceptionally hidden valley depth beneath a towering sandstone cliff, densely enclosed by countless giant boulders. It was a natural sanctuary accidentally sealed by nature. The towering rock walls blocked the furious monsoons entirely, while the temperature inside remained as cozy and constant as a natural nest. And the shallow stories of later generations obsessed with behemoth battles, the flat-plated Werosaurus is routinely marginalized, as if lacking the colossal horns of a triceratops doomed them to become a sacrifice in the meat grinder of fate. Yet this arrogant view completely fails to read the profound wisdom of restraint in Woody's bones. His bone plates were not meant to display power, but served as an invisible psychological wall allowing him to masterfully evade the storms of the era. In his third year of living in this sandstone canyon, on a midnight when the mantle vibrated faintly, danger inevitably pierced the canyon's defense, descending upon this quiet sanctuary in its coldest form. A massive primitive carnivorous dinosaur, starved and weak from a prolonged lack of prey, followed the faint scent of life, slipping noiselessly through the mud to the edge of the rock where Woody rested. It was a terrifying dead silence that seemed to paralyze the entire canyon in an instant. From the predator's gaping jaws, lined with coarse backward denticles, thick, foul saliva dripped onto the rocks with faint scraping noises. The ancient cicadas singing in the dark folded their wings instantly, the shrubs fell deathly still, and the moisture in the air seemed to freeze into ice under the carnivore's ravenous gaze. Yet, facing an ambush terrifying enough to shatter the souls of any small species, Woody displayed a near-sacred, breathtaking composure. He released no useless roars to vent his fear, nor did he bolt frantically like his kin. Instead, he dropped his center of gravity entirely, grounding his robust body firmly into the soft mud. He ceased all movement completely, burying his head deep between his thick forelimbs and presenting his high, flat paddle-shaped back plates, stretching meters long and heavily sheathed in keratin, straight toward the hunter. In the occasional flash of lightning tearing the night, these plates reflected a cold, heavy density like granite. This was no food to easily rip apart, but an impassable defense rising abruptly from the shore. This siege of will lasted for a full half-hour. Ultimately, before Woody's mountain-like, unshakable restraint, the madness in the predator's eyes was replaced by despondency, forcing it to retreat step by step into the dark forest floor, carrying away its heavy exhaustion. With the thrilling confrontation dissolved, midnight in the canyon welcomed its most tender and fated hour. The heavy clouds finally split under the night wind, and a faint, emerald-tinted moonlight filtered from the sky, illuminating the tiny sanctuary where Woody rested and carving out a sacred silver edge from all shadows. What truly brought the absolute quiet to this wilderness was the stream of gentle, delicate midnight breezes drifting across the canyon upper canopy. As the moonlight swept with a near slow-motion flow over the 2 rows of unique, flat bone plates armored in weathered keratin on Woody's back, a wondrous natural resonance unfolded on schedule. These flat osteoderms acted like natural stone mirrors polished perfectly by the ages. Instead of absorbing the night's chill, they softly reflected and diffused the pale silver radiance onto the adjacent dark rock walls. Sha-sha-sha, sha-sha-sha. It was a low sound born of breeze friction against the bone edges, transforming within the dead canyon into the most soothing white noise, like 1,000 gentle hands rustling through dried pine needles simultaneously. At that moment, inside this silver cocoon woven of moonlight and bone plates, Woody's massive iron-like back silhouette miraculously exuded a warm, snug radiation that instinctively invited closeness. This was a grounding sense of safety born of absolute defense, completely transforming this sandstone canyon into a tranquil realm of dreams detached from Cretaceous survival laws. The tiny, primitive mammals around, who had been trembling inside tree hollows due to the predator's intrusion, gradually dropped their alertness under this soft silver glow and grounding sense of gravity. Creeping out from dark rock crevices, they even dared to snuggle their cold, frail bodies tightly against the massive, trunk-like feet of Woody, which still radiated the deep warmth of the rocks. And Woody just stood there in silence. He did not lower his head, merely letting these tiny creatures find their coziest sleeping positions beneath his shadow, while drawing his slow, deep breaths into an infinite length. The end of life arrived quietly and elegantly. For Woody, it was merely the most peaceful and enchanting evening among countless deeply comfortable nights. It was an ordinary end to a dry season in the early Cretaceous, the air carrying the subtle bitterness and caramel aroma of drying plants, while thousands of gentle meteors streaked across the dark sky. Woody was too old. His joints had accumulated countless calcified traces from seasonal shifts and climate changes, and every movement of his flat plate rose required enduring a blunt ache deep within his skeleton. Yet he showed no panic of finality. On that star-filled night, he simply returned to the center of the flat rock flats that had accompanied him for a lifetime, laying down slowly in his most familiar posture. He cradled his tired head gently within a soil groove cushioned perfectly by fallen leaves, its texture coarse and warm, offering him the ultimate psychological support and reconciliation he had never experienced in his life. He began to completely relax his long spine, which had been tensed for so long against the world's prejudice, letting the residual warmth of the rock soothe his entire frame like a final heat therapy. As the warm gravity took full custody of his skeleton, a localized sandstone cliff collapse triggered by prolonged rain sent soft, fine red sand pouring smoothly into this harbor. Without fear, and without a single cry, this supreme traveler of canyon relaxation slipped directly from mortal dreams into eternal sleep, tucked inside his favorite moonlit sanctuary and cradled by the comforting white noise of wind. Over the next 100 million years, oceans turned into lands. The ancient Yungar Basin underwent countless rifts and reshapes, its once flourishing shallows compressing and rising into the cold northwestern desert strata of today. Yet Woody's body, maintaining that perfect reclining posture and tightly sealed under fine sand and silt, underwent mineralized change, fusing beautifully with the cold stone until every tiny vertebra and trace of flat plate became an exquisite part of the Earth's skeleton. 100 million years passed like an invisible torrent, washing away all pride and arrogance, yet freezing Woody's restraint and tranquility forever within the ribs of the Earth. Now, this specimen, hailed as one of the most elegant stegosaurid fossils in the world, rests silently inside the climate-controlled central display case of the modern museum, continuing to exude a serene presence under the soft light. The river that once accompanied him for eons has long dried up, and those towering redwoods have transformed into coal deep underground. Yet the breathing rhythm Woody left behind on that night seems to echo faintly under the modern city's night sky. In this modern world filled with survival anxieties, where everyone is forced to sprint and crushed by life's heavy pace, this story of an ancient hermit lowering its head at twilight, sleeping in slow motion upon the warm flats, is your most grounded sanctuary tonight. There is no need to ponder tomorrow's hustles, nor any reason to mind the mundane conflicts that leave you exhausted and tight. The earth will cradle your tired body with the gentlest gravity and endless night, just as it accepted Woody eons ago, washing away all your unease and tension. Your bed radiates a pleasant warmth, and your soft duvet offers the most comforting physical embrace, mirroring that warm soil and loose sand that safely covered Woody eons ago. Drop all defenses and weight from your heart, listen to this story that requires no effort to remember, and let your slow, deep, and measured breathing carry you away. Slowly, close your eyes. Good night, Woody the Werosaurus. Good night, to every soul shedding its heavy armor tonight, returning to an inner mountain-like peace.